Karibu Sana Club 1999. For us to fully understand how laws are being made right now, to favor certain families, to favor certain senior politicians, it is very important that we go a little back in time. And I believe I'm going to reveal a lot of highly sensitive things that you never knew. Now, it is true that when Jomo Kenyatta came into office, he wanted the best for Kenya. At heart, he wanted to do the best he could do for a better Kenya. There's plenty of evidence to prove that. However, it is also true that Jomo Kenyatta, or Johnson Kamau, which was his real name, did not come from a privileged family. In fact, Joseph Murumbi reveals that during the Lancaster House talks, the talks that led to the independence of Kenya, there was one member of the party who was always broke, didn't have any money on them. You know, those who attended the Lancaster House conference, it was fully sponsored. Air tickets, accommodation, and so on and so forth. But one needed a little money in the pocket, to maybe get a drink, to get one or two things that were not included in the freebies. Now, the late Joseph Murumbi revealed that the person who was always broke was, of course, Jomo Kenyatta. And he also reveals that Jomo used to get handouts, from guess who? Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who always seemed to have a lot of money on him. Of course, courtesy of the Russians. The Russians were, of course, very desperate to get a foothold into East Africa, at that time. Indeed, into Africa, and especially East Africa. And therefore, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga's flow of cash from the Russians to facilitate what he was doing for them never dried up. And so Jaramogi gave Jomo a lot of grants. He used to dish out a lot of money to him. Now, it is also wrong to think that when Jomo came into office, he was hungry for making money. It is wrong to think that when Jomo came into office, this was another DP Ruto who wants to make a lot of money like last year. He was not like that. And his intentions remained very good and for the good of the country. However, very early on, the new administration ran into a very serious problem. And the problem was that a security threat was identified. And this security threat was a small group of white settler farmers who were still in the country. These people were stinking wealthy. They had a lot of money. And indeed, some of them were the financiers of the main opposition party going into independence, KADU. And therefore, it was very clear, very early on, that Jomo Kenyatta and his KANU people had to have big money on their side. One way was, of course, to convince some of the big white settler families to cross the floor and support KANU. However, this was not entirely feasible because those white settler farmers had excellent contacts within KADU, and you don't just drop your contacts overnight. And so at some point, it was decided that it was very important for those who surrounded the president to have financial clout. And that was the birth of rampant corruption in Kenya. Still, Jomo did not throw caution to the winds. He was still very cautious. And what he did, he focused on acquiring land, large pieces of land, including land which was supposed to be given back to peasants and other ordinary Kenyans. At independence, the British government had provided funding for that land to be purchased from white settlers and then redistributed back to the rightful original owners. That was the plan. However, things didn't go like that. And of course, Jomo and his cronies benefited a lot from this land acquired from white settlers, with money donated by the British government. And Jomo completely stayed away from any form of business. Indeed, Jomo was very strict to members of his family and very sternly warned them that nobody was under any circumstances to get involved in business. Yeah, that is start a company, start operating it, a visible company, doing business, yeah, and taking advantage of the presidency to make money. Jomo sternly warned all his family members not to get involved with such deals. The closest the Kenyatta family came to being involved in business in those days was to get small shares in investors coming to the country, especially hotels at the coast. So an investor would come in wanting to set up a hotel group, yeah, and they would set it up, and 5% of the shares of that hotel would go to the Kenyatta family. And of course that is corruption, yeah, and the Kenyatta family earned a steady, reliable stream of income from this kind of arrangement, and everything was good. However, as the old man's health started to deteriorate, things started going wrong. Yeah, he would not know everything that was going on around him. But of course he was aware that those closest to him in the kitchen cabinet had permission to get very rich, yeah, in order to sustain the government in power and to reduce the threat of any rich man, yeah, financing an opposition against the government, financing a revolt of sorts against the Kenyatta regime. As they always say, money is power. Now everybody feared Jomo. Nobody wanted to go against him. But the temptation to make huge sums of money very quickly was too big to resist. And so those close to the president, including family members, started secretly getting involved in businesses. Now, in the early 70s to mid-70s, my political lecturer, who was a very senior officer in the police, went through a very harrowing experience where he feared for his life. In those days, there was a lot of smuggling going on, yeah, and my political lecturer impounded smuggled coffee. As he was being threatened, he was told that this coffee actually belonged to Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Looking back, of course his life may have been in danger, but there's one piece of information he did not have. There was no way, yeah, those who were threatening him would ever inform Jomo about this particular transaction. Why? Well, I've already told you. Jomo had strictly forbidden immediate members of his family from getting involved in any business. And you never ever disobeyed Jomo. And so whatever happened, there was no way, yeah, the full state machinery would come after him. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to tell you, yeah, but I guess you do. Anyway, my point is, those close to the president tended to get involved in deals. Now, I talk about these deals in my latest weekly intelligence briefs, yeah, as well as some other information that is so sensitive. I cannot even talk about it here, yeah. Anyway, let's proceed. After the old man passed on in August 1978, his family was comfortable. Yeah, they had no money worries. But as the years progressed, a strain, yeah, started to show in their finances. And so, experts were brought in, yeah, to reorganize the family finances. And so they went very heavily into buying real estate, yeah, especially at the coast. And then a company, for the first time, yeah, belonging to the Kenyatta family, was launched. The name of that company was Brookside Dairy. And Brookside Dairy flourished, yeah, during the Moi years, the years when Daniel Toroitich arap Moi was in power as president of the country. And if they ran into any problem, if they needed anything, all that had to be done was for Mama Ngina to book an appointment and go and see Moi, and the problem would be solved. Now, meanwhile, on the government side, all hell broke loose. Yeah, there was nobody to stop anybody, yeah, from starting a company, from doing business with the government. There was nobody. Kenyatta was gone. And not only that, Moi, in the early years of his rule, faced precisely the same problem Kenyatta had faced at independence. Yeah, they needed strong financial backing on their side. And that is how huge sums of money were looted from the Kenyan people, from the Kenyan treasury, straight to the Moi family, personal holdings. Believe it or not, many of those who were involved in this corruption were sure they were doing something patriotic. You can call it patriotic looting or patriotic corruption. Yeah, but that's what they really believed, because the Moi administration had to be protected. And in fact, things just went completely overboard after the failed 1982 coup attempt. The coup attempt was a confirmation to looters that unless they got their act together and became very powerful with money, the government of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi could be gone in a flash, because other people have more money than those backing the government. So it became a free-for-all, especially for people who hailed from Moi's own Kalenjin community. Now let's come back to the main topic we're supposed to talk about, because now we have the background. When Uhuru Ruto took over in 2013, if you go back, you'll notice that there were a lot of laws passed. Laws to curtail press freedom, laws to do anything and everything they wanted. And this also included laws that would help those in power to gain financially. But this was mainly DP Ruto's game. He's the one who gained the most from that particular period. But now we have a situation where President Uhuru Kenyatta is due to leave power by 2022. And so it is hardly surprising that the laws which were proposed by the Dairy Board came up. Now Brookside controls a huge chunk of the dairy industry in Kenya. They have done this mainly by acquisition. They have acquired every big dairy, including people like Tuzo, a brand which was previously owned by the Samesians. All that now belongs to Brookside. Now, had those laws on the dairy industry passed, then it would have put Brookside at a very good position, at an advantage, to become even more profitable. Because the long and short of those new laws that were proposed was that it was going to make processed milk a monopoly. There'd be no competition because nobody else would be allowed to sell raw milk. And processed milk is Brookside. They control the entire industry. Over 80%, well over 80% of the market is controlled by Brookside. Now, maybe there's something you don't know or not fully aware about politicians in Kenya. Whenever a new law is being passed, they look for the good points, the convincing points that the law is very good. For instance, in the case of milk, the argument is that milk which is sold raw is not healthy. And of course it's true, there are a lot of dangers. For instance, if the milk is not boiled properly, it could cause very serious disease on those who consume them. And also there's the very basic hygiene. Some of this milk sold by hawkers has no hygiene. I mean, those people have never heard of the word hygiene. Milk is not covered. It's just there. There are flies flying all over it, etc., etc. And so, listening to some of these arguments, many Kenyans will be convinced that these laws were for the best of the country, not realizing that actually the main objective is that they're for the best of the first family, period. Now, let's come to the Huduma number, the very controversial Huduma number. Now, most people know that the first family is the major shareholder in the Commercial Bank of Africa. Now, the Commercial Bank of Africa has got a new, highly profitable cash cow. They've joined hands with Safaricom's M-Pesa and are in fact the main bankers for M-Shwari. Because Safaricom doesn't have a banking license, does not qualify to get a banking license, and therefore they needed a banking partner to operate M-Shwari. Now it's very interesting because there's a question I've heard asked and answered wrongly in recent times, either out of ignorance or maybe the people know and they're scared to say or they don't want to say. And the question is this: which bank in Kenya has the highest number of customers with accounts? If you think the answer is Equity Bank, you're wrong. You're very wrong. That bank is Commercial Bank of Africa, and it is through the M-Shwari deal. Now, what some analysts are saying is that the Huduma number is supposed to give the government digital information on everybody who lives within the borders of Kenya. Okay? And then what is going to happen is that you will need various government services. And then you'll also need, wait for this one, at one time or the other, credit facilities, money, maybe to pay for a certain government service, and maybe don't have the money. And the bank which is going to be appointed to take care of this, you've guessed it, is going to be Commercial Bank of Africa. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not the only reason that this service, this controversial scheme of Huduma number has been introduced. The whole thing came out of the security team. The security team and a cabinet secretary who finds himself very idle. Joe Musheru, who's into IT. The two seem to have come up with a scheme that is going to help the authorities to control crime. Because when you have data on everybody, when a crime is committed, it becomes very easy to identify suspects. Because you have their fingerprints, you have their DNA, you have everything. Of course, we've been told in recent times that the DNA part will be removed from the law, but that remains to be seen. As we speak, as I make this video, it is still in the law. And of course, Kenyans forget. Kenyans get distracted by other more immediate issues. And therefore, my guess is that the DNA part will remain, and that sometime in future, Kenyans will be forced, because it's in the laws, to surrender their DNA to authorities. Now, when you get a situation where security chiefs are calling all the shots, this is what you get. Because they will not look at privacy laws. They will not try to get a more balanced view of what they're trying to do. All they're interested in is security, period. And if this is an easy way to improve security in the country, to be able to identify terrorists very quickly, etc., then so be it. Whatever needs to be done, find a way to do it. And ultimately force things on Kenyans. But apart from that, definitely a commercial side, a side for the first family to greatly profit, has already been identified. And I've already explained to you what it is. Now, I discuss other sensitive issues I've left out of this video in my weekly intelligence briefs. So I recommend, if you're not yet a member, go for it. I think all the information you need is on your screens right now. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.